Netflix has a ton of amazing horror movies, but which ones should you watch right now? Let's find out.
A cult, a disease. Be careful. Be smart. Bring her home.
Number 1, Apostle. A period piece set in 1905 London. Thomas returns home to find that his sister is being held ransom by a religious cult on a remote island. As he infiltrates the cult, becoming one of the members himself, he discovers that the secrets they're harboring are more sinister than he could have ever imagined. This film is so dark, both figuratively and literally. Thomas has some serious issues going on in his personal life, and you can't help but wonder how those are going to come into effect throughout the movie and affect his main mission, which is trying to rescue his sister. But believe me, these personal demons do come back to haunt him. So you already have a feeling that nothing is going to go well for everyone in this movie. Despite it being a cult movie, which inherently you know that nothing is going to go well for the cult, and usually the cult is the main antagonist in these types of films. But I'm going to tell you now that this film has a supernatural twist to it that is very unique. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to give anything away. You just have to watch and see. But you know nothing is going to go well for any of these cultists. You know nothing's going to go well even for our main protagonist, Thomas. This film is just like an outrage against nature in and of itself. Definitely check it out.
Alrighty, babes, let's get started before we head upstairs and get the blood of the innocent.
Number 2, The Babysitter. Cole has an amazing babysitter who's become like his best friend. But when he decides to stay up late one night and see what she gets up to after he's gone to bed, he finds out that she's part of a satanic cult, and she'll go to any lengths to keep her secret. First of all, what is up with all the religious cult movies that I'm recommending? But number 2, this movie is so funny and it's so fun. You are going to be jealous of a teenage boy while you watch this thing, because you're going to be like, man, I wish my babysitter had been this cool. She does so many fun things with this kid. They put together their own intergalactic dream team of heroes. They watch movies together. They know quotes to all of their favorite movies. They just kick some serious butt. She even gives him tips for fending off some of the bullies in the neighborhood. Could she be any better? This movie has really unique editing that's just going to pull you in. It almost reminds you of something like YouTube editing, which just takes you out of the whole movie format and kind of makes this more of an immersive experience. You have some unique directing from Mick G, whom is the producer and sometimes director of Supernatural for all you Winchester fans out there. The performance that Samara Weaving delivers as the babysitter in this film just solidifies for me the fact that she is definitely a modern day scream queen, and she is kicking some serious butt.
Doesn't look like someone broke in. To me, it looks like they were trying to break out.
Number 3, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. A father and son team of coroners must put their brains together to figure out the cause of death of a mysterious young woman. The more they begin to learn about this Jane Doe, the more bizarre things become, leading them to find that she's harboring dark secrets. For those true crime lovers out there, and for those of you who love those murder mystery shows, those whodunits, or even those cop shows like Law and Order or something like that, I feel like you're really going to like this movie. You are going to get sucked into the mystery of what is going on as the father and son begin to unravel exactly what has happened to this Jane Doe and what led to these circumstances. And to help us along, you are going to be sucked right in with the cinematography, because it is beautifully shot, it is beautifully lit, and it just really puts you in the secluded area of this morgue. It really makes you feel like you're alone. You're trapped in here with these characters. And speaking of these characters, the father-son dynamic in this relationship is just really well written. You really feel for both of them. You find out things about their past that make them much more real to you. And you find out that the son has his own goals and dreams and passions. And there's just so much to this movie to unravel that I really think it does a great job of pulling you in. It has a super gimmicky scare in it involving a tow bell. In case you didn't know, a tow bell is a bell that coroners back in the old days would tie around the big toe of a corpse. And that way, if they heard the bell ring, they would know that that person was actually comatose and not deceased. Have you ever heard of the term Saved by the Bell? Well, this is where that comes from. If you watch this movie alone with all the lights turned off, you are going to be thinking your heart is going to pound out of your chest. There's a bit of a trigger warning with this movie though that I am going to warn you about, and it is a little bit of a spoiler, but I feel like I have to do it for those animal lovers out there. The poor cat does die. I know, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, I hated to watch it, but I feel like I had to tell you. If you're an animal lover like me, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell, not the tow bell. And let's get an F in the comments for the poor kitty cat.
A true classic. Never goes out of style.
That was good.
Number 4, Bride of Chucky. Everyone's favorite psychotic killer doll, Chucky, is back. He and his partner in crime, Tiffany, are on the hunt for an amulet that will allow them to transfer their souls back into human bodies. But to do this, they're going to have to go on an action-packed thrill ride in a Winnebago to Hackensack, New Jersey. I know this is a later installment in the Child's Play franchise, but I feel like you don't have to watch any of those prior films to jump right into Bride of Chucky. I feel like this movie stands on its own and sort of starts to take the franchise in a totally different direction, abandoning the whole Andy Barclay timeline. This is also when they begin to take Chucky in a totally different direction as well, as he becomes much more humorous. This is an absolutely phenomenal choice if you want to have a date night with that special someone. I feel like you can cuddle up, it's not going to be too scary, it's going to be a little over the top, but you both will laugh your butts off. You're really going to love it. And there are some really romantic scenes in this involving Chucky and Tiffany, as well as our main protagonists. Let's also give some mad props to Alexis Arquette, who plays Damien Baylock, A.K.A. Howard Fitzwater, in this film. I feel like her performance in this movie is directly responsible for the fashion statement I decided I was going to make as a teenager.
Would you like to hear the specials?
Not if you want to keep your spleen.
Number 5, American Psycho. Based on the book written by Bret Easton Ellis, I'll link to it in the description below, Patrick Bateman is a young, successful man with a great job, plenty of friends, and a beautiful significant other. This just means he has more people he must hide his psychotic, serial killer tendencies from. Christian Bale delivers an absolutely astounding performance in this movie, but hey, what can we come to expect from a legend of the game? And I am still jealous of this man's morning routine, his skincare routine, his physical fitness routine, everything about it is just, come on. This film also has like this really weird, off-putting, clean or sterile aesthetic about it. It almost has like that doctor's office feeling to it, despite the fact that you're running around the streets of New York, you're going clubbing, you're hanging out in apartments, you're hanging out in office buildings and stuff like that. It is just really off-putting. The soundtrack to this film is just absolutely fantastic. It features a ton of great music from the late 80s and early 90s that just had that whole yuppie generation in an absolute stranglehold. Speaking of which, there's a scene with Jared Leto in this film before he went totally weirdo that is going to stick out for you for the rest of your entire life, and everyone else who has seen this movie knows exactly what I'm talking about. There is a reason there are so many memes out there for this scene.
It was a gift from my mom for my birthday. I don't know where she got it, but we are beyond terrified.
Number 6, Annabelle. John believes he just found the perfect gift for his expecting wife, Annabelle, a seemingly innocent vintage doll in a white dress. However, they begin to notice supernatural occurrences surrounding the doll after their home was invaded by satanic cultists. Damn those satanic cultists, always up to no good. Look, I love The Conjuring, and everyone remembers that introduction in The Conjuring when the Warrens are sitting there talking with some nurses about Annabelle the doll. Well, this movie finally gives us the backstory from that whole scene. We're going to figure out where Annabelle came from, why does Annabelle act this way, and who had her before she would eventually end up in the hands of those nurses and then inevitably in the Warren Museum. The editing and visual effects in this film are super creative and draw you in, which really leads to some extremely effective jump scares that are going to make you just jump right out of your skin because you're never going to see them coming. We get some really unique stuff in this one. And if jump scares aren't your thing, you like a little more tension and suspense in your horror, don't worry, because Annabelle has a lot of that to offer as well. There is a very specific scene I think of as I talk about this. It takes place in an elevator. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but I will never forget the first time I watched this scene unfold while I was in theaters, and even on subsequent viewings, this scene still gets to me. This is a very effective horror movie in many ways, and I think you will enjoy it, especially if you're a fan of the Conjuring universe.
Swing, don't swing! Swing!
Number 7, Zombieland. A virus that turns people into zombies has devastated the masses. A group of survivors must band together if they want to survive and travel to a rumored safe haven in Los Angeles. But to do so, they'll have to abide by a set of zombie survival rules. I think all of us horror fans at some point have sat around and thought about what we would do in the event of a zombie apocalypse. We've probably even compiled our zombie survival teams. And well, that's essentially what Zombieland is like. You have a group of friends just trying to survive the zombie apocalypse. And absolute hilarity unfolds because these people are just like you and me. There's nothing special whatsoever about them. They're just average people. There's a list of zombie survival rules and guidelines they've kind of put together to help them survive the apocalypse, such as how to kill zombies more effectively, such as how to protect yourself more effectively, which makes this movie that much more fun. And this also turns into like a road trip movie as they're trying to travel across the country. And you have to think about what you would do in a situation like this. Wouldn't you stop at the grocery store and get all of your favorite road trip snacks and just absolutely splurge? Wouldn't you wear your dream attire? Wouldn't you stop and pick up your dream car for this little road trip? All of those fun things come together in this movie. There's also a special guest appearance. I'm not going to talk about it here. I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just going to tell you right now, you are going to absolutely love it. I would also say that this movie is kid-friendly because the violence, yeah, there's plenty of violence, there's plenty of gore, but it's all over the top stuff that kids are just going to find absolutely hilarious. They're not going to take it serious and get scared by this stuff. So if you want something to show your kids, this might be it.
It could look like someone you know, or it could be a stranger in a crowd. Whatever helps it get close to you.
Number 8, It Follows. A carefree teenager's life is turned upside down after having sex with her boyfriend for the first time when she contracts a deadly curse that's passed from person to person via sexual intercourse. Now, she's being pursued relentlessly by a supernatural force that only she can see, and it won't stop until it has her. Remember earlier in this video when I said Bride of Chucky was a great date night movie? It Follows is the exact opposite of that. Do not watch this movie with that special someone you're hoping to get closer to, because it's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, a lot of people view this film as a metaphor for contracting an STD or an STI, whichever you prefer to call it. This movie just has a very dull and bleak feeling to it. It almost feels like our characters characters have been isolated from the rest of the world, and it's accentuated by the color grading choices they've made, because everything just has this very desaturated look to it, and the characters also have this very morose feeling. They're very under-exaggerated, very quiet and timid. So you just feel like something is very off in this world. However, in contrast to that, we do have a very great group of friends who just want to look out for one another and kind of solve this mystery together, taking care of each other. These friends, they're not going to abandon each other when things get hectic. Instead, they're going to come together and get each other's back, and this is just a beautiful thing to see. It Follows has a really unique soundtrack that stands on its own. It's very memorable. I have even purchased it on Apple Music. And one thing that separates this from other curse movies like The Ring is that those movies, you just watch the story unfold, you watch the mystery unfold, and you are just an audience member. In It Follows, you almost feel like a participant. You are going to ask everybody you know who's watched this movie, what would you do if you were afflicted by this deadly curse? How would you beat it? It's really good. So what I'm saying is invite some friends over and give it a watch.
I hate kids.
Number 9. Child's Play 2. Andy Barkley is now living in foster care after he and his mother were attacked by a killer doll, and no one believed them, resulting in Andy's mother being placed in a mental health facility. Now, Chucky is back, ready to claim the child's soul. Yes, I know this is a sequel to the original Child's Play, so if you haven't watched that, I highly suggest it because it's a great film and it is a classic, but I feel like you could just watch Child's Play 2, even if you haven't seen the original, because we get a whole new cast of characters. The only returning character from the original is Andy Barkley himself, and you kind of get a summarization of what's happened in his life since the first one, and things have gone really bad for this poor kid, and they don't necessarily get better because you find out that his mom, who was also attacked by Chucky in the original, has now been put in a psychiatric hospital because the cops that were there and laid witness to the fact that Chucky was a real thing turned over on them and lied and said they didn't see anything, so essentially no one would think they were crazy. So they threw Andy and his poor mother under the bus, and now Andy has to go to foster care because of all of this. And now when Chucky is inevitably hot on his trail, his foster parents and nobody else believes him either. They just think he is suffering from some childhood trauma and that with a little bit of tough love, maybe he'll get over it. This is such a good movie on so many levels. You're going to wonder where Chucky could be all of the time. He could strike from literally anywhere. Poor Andy is never safe, no matter where he's at, whether it be home, whether it be at school, whether it even be the freaking good guy doll factory we get at the end of the film, which is absolutely amazing and fun all in its own right. You just never get a moment to relax. It's a sequel that really ups the ante, but stays true to the original, trying to tell a cohesive story. Brad Dourif returns as Chucky, Alex Vincent returns as Andy Barkley, and we also get introduced to Kyle, who was one of my many childhood crushes, who will stop at no lengths to help Andy. I really think you should check this one out, whether you've seen the first, whether you haven't, but if you've seen the first, I think you'll like it even more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Number 10, Jaws. Based on the classic novel by Peter Benchley, I'll link to it in the description below, Jaws tells the story of a small beach community being plagued by a recent string of shark attacks. Now, it's up to the local chief of police, a marine biologist, and a grizzled shark hunter to come together and put a stop to this apex predator. Alright, I know we're all getting ready for spooky season, and I consider Jaws to be more of a summer horror film, but still, I have to include what many consider as one of the greatest horror films of all time, and I know I'm in league with that thinking. What could I even possibly say about this film? The characters are absolutely amazing. Every character you get in this film stands on their own. Quint is his own person. Hooper is his own person. Chief Brody is his own person. Even the mayor is his own person. Everybody has defining characteristics. The story is going to suck you right in, and it's going to absolutely terrify you of the ocean. The score is incredible. This has one of the most memorable scores of all time ever laid to film. And let's not forget that this is one of those movies that has a scene in it that a character is telling a story, and in this instance, I'm talking about Quint, who tells the USS Indianapolis story, and you almost want a movie based off of the dialogue, the story that this character is retelling. That is how dang effective and great this film is. And in case you didn't know, Steven Spielberg didn't even write the whole USS Indianapolis bit of dialogue here. He called up his friend, other legendary film director, John Milius, and said, "John, I need some help with this bit of dialogue. I really need to connect these characters somehow. I need Quint to bring them all in, something really effective." And John Milius, while they're on the freaking phone, just starts rattling off this crazy story to Steven Spielberg. Spielberg gets out a pen, starts writing it down, and it turned out to be the USS Indianapolis scene, which is one of the greatest scenes in horror film history. And it's moments like this that just make this film so special, so great. And these two legendary directors coming together to help each other out. There's a scene that was cut in this film, but pictures still exist of it, and I'm going to tell you right now, it is pure nightmare fuel. Once you've seen them, you can never unsee them, and of course, I'm talking about the Alex Kintner scene. Tubi and Max also have a great selection of horror films, and I've made videos on both of those services with my list of recommendations. So if you haven't checked out those videos, I highly recommend that you do. What's your favorite movie that I mentioned on this list? Did I miss something that's on Netflix that I should have included? Please leave a comment below and let me know. And if you watch anything off of this list that you hadn't seen and you really like it, come back and tell me. Or if you really hate it, you can come back and yell at me. Either way, I would really appreciate it, and I thank you for watching my video.